Good morning and welcome to this month's installment of the Council's Inside the Corner Office series, where we get to know the leaders of some of Region's most well-known and respected businesses and organizations. Before I introduce our guest today, I just wanted to take a moment to remind you about some of our other programming that we have planned in the next couple of weeks. Over the next several weeks, we will be hosting members of the New England delegation for our Capitol Hill Report programming all over New England, including Congressman Jared Golden in Portland, Maine on June 1st, Congressman Stephen Lynch here in Boston on June 13th, and Congressman Jim Langevin in Providence on June 17th. And the next installment of Inside the Corner Office will take place on June 22nd, when our guest will be Reshma Kewal-Ramani, the CEO of Vertex Pharmaceuticals. You can find more information on all these events on our newly redesigned website, newenglandcouncil.com. Well, today, we're delighted to welcome the CEO of Point32 Health, Cain Hayes. Point32 Health is the combined organization of Tough Health Plan and Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, making it one of the region's largest nonprofit health organizations, serving some 2.2 million members across 5 states. Cain was announced as the CEO of the new combined organization 1 year ago, almost to the day. I believe it was July 5th, 2021. He brings with him to this role a wealth of experience in the healthcare industry, which we will talk about in just a few moments. I had the privilege to meet with Cain last year, shortly after he joined Point32 Health. And I was impressed by his passion for his work and his bold leadership style. So I'm very pleased that he could find time to join us today so that all of you can get to know him. Well, Cain, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks so much. I really appreciate the kind words, and thanks for inviting me today. I'm really looking forward to the discussion. Honored to be.
Before we get into the discussion, show me that T-shirt, that jersey one more time.
Yeah, well, you know, it's Al Horford's jersey.
Love it.
Yeah, we've been in Boston now for about 8 months, but we've become avid Celtics fans right away, and certainly need him to be in the game. I know we had some challenges without him, he and Marcus Smart, but really happy to have that. I collect sports memorabilia, so that's
wow.
A recent
Okay.
ad.
Do you have any New England Patriot memorabilia?
Oh, believe it or not, I do. I got right here. Yeah, there's a helmet signed by Mac Jones.
Okay. Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah.
You're really becoming a New Englander. Well, let's start by talking a little bit about your personal background. Where you grew up, how you became interested in the healthcare field.
Well, you know, it's really interesting, Jim. My path to becoming the CEO of a healthcare company is a bit unusual in that I spent the first 20 years of my career, the first 2/3 of my career, in an entirely different industry. I was in the financial services industry, focused on the 401k, defined benefit, asset management side of the business with Principal Financial Group, and then Nationwide Insurance. And in 2010, the year that the Affordable Care Act passed, I got a call from an executive recruiter that said that Aetna was looking for an executive to lead a $3 billion division for them. So I joked with the recruiter. I said, I appreciate the call, but I think you've got the wrong Cain Hayes. I said, I'm the financial services Cain Hayes. You're looking for the healthcare, Cain Hayes. And he said, no, we got the right Cain Hayes. The Affordable Care Act had just passed. Things were changing, and it was sort of an action forcing event with that legislation. And the organization was looking for leaders that could bring some kind of fresh thinking to some of the challenges in healthcare. And through some personal experiences I was having at that point in my life, I really began to think a lot about this notion of total health, I called it, which was the combination of not only physical health, but also mental or behavioral health, as well as financial health, which I knew well at that point. And, I saw, being in that retirement side of the business, I saw so many people get to retirement, and they frankly had done a nice job saving for retirement. They had a nice nest egg. They built that financial health only to get to retirement and have a poor quality of life. Because although they had the financial health, they didn't have their physical health and or their mental or behavioral health. So I made a conscious decision after 20 years in financial services to transition into healthcare. And at the time, it was a $3 trillion industry. Of course, today it's a $4 trillion industry 12 years later. This shows you how rapidly costs are increasing. But I wanted to take what I learned in financial services and help solve this challenge around total health. So it's really been a passion of mine. And that decision to transition into healthcare was transformative for me, both personally, as well as professionally, which led to my becoming the CEO of Gateway Health, a $3 billion healthcare company in Pittsburgh, and then leading to me now being the president and CEO of Point32 Health, which, as you mentioned, is the combined organization or the parent company of Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan, 9.2 billion in revenue, based here in New England. So it's an interesting path, not a usual path, but really honored and feel privileged to be here.
But you also had a leadership role at the Blue Cross of Minnesota as well, right?
That's exactly right. Along the way, before joining Gateway, I had the privilege of being the president and COO at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota, and really was a rewarding experience. And it's interesting, if you look at the dynamics in the state of Minnesota in terms of the healthcare landscape and the dynamics in Massachusetts and the healthcare landscape, it's amazing how similar they are. But I had have the privilege of working there. So and it's interesting, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I talked about the deliberate decision that I made to transition from financial services to healthcare after a number of years on the for-profit sort of public company side of healthcare. Made a conscious decision to actually transition to the not-for-profit side of healthcare, where I could really focus on the mission of the organization and serving the community. So I made that transition to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota, as I mentioned, as the president and COO there. And again, very, very rewarding experience.
So you're from the Midwest. You spent much of your career there and in Pennsylvania. What attracted you to the job at Point32 Health, and more importantly, to New England?
It's interesting. Things were going extremely well, happy in Pittsburgh. I should have mentioned I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri, so that's my hometown.
Ferguson.
That's exactly right. Grew up in Ferguson, which really hit home a number of years ago with the incidents that happened in that 2015, 2016 timeframe. And now, but we moved here from Pittsburgh, and so we spent 13 years in Pittsburgh. And so while St. Louis is my hometown, Pittsburgh is my adopted hometown, because that's where my wife is from. So if you're wondering where my sports loyalties lie, I am a diehard St. Louis Cardinals baseball fan, but I'm also a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I have to say. But as I mentioned, though, it didn't have a basketball team, so now die hard. But so as I learned about this opportunity at Point32 Health, I was really attracted to the opportunity to lead this combination of two very strong, iconic institutions, organizations in Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan, who individually had done some great work in the communities in New England and helping people get and stay healthy. Both organizations had strong cultures and were on the list of kind of best places to work in Massachusetts. And bringing those two organizations together, I saw as a once in a lifetime career opportunity, and could use much of what I learned throughout my 30+ year career, having worked in financial services, but also having experience at the national for-profit publicly traded companies and the Blue Cross Blue Shield companies, and then also regional health plans, and kind of bring that all together and help build this culture, this unified culture. And I can talk about our priorities, but another one of the, in addition to building the culture, is certainly the integration of the two organizations. So I saw it as a, once in a career, once in a lifetime career opportunity, and feel honored to have been selected to lead this organization. And we're off to a great start. 2 years in, we're in our second year as a combined organization.
Right. How would you describe your leadership style?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that every leader should develop their personal leadership philosophy and to document that leadership philosophy and share it with the folks on their team. So about 10 to 15 years ago, I developed my personal leadership philosophy centered on what I called the 5 Ps. So 5 simple words. I like to keep it simple. I call it the 5 Ps, and it's people, planning, processes, performance, and partnerships. And so I've developed that leadership philosophy. And the first P, people, for me, it all starts with the team, and it starts with the people on the team. Growing up in St. Louis, I was active in sports, played baseball. St. Louis is a baseball town. Got to play baseball in college, and I was very active in the Boy Scouts, and I'm an Eagle Scout. And I learned very early on the importance of team and the importance of having a great team and being able to accomplish any objective if you've got the right team. So my leadership philosophy starts with people, and it really is at the center. I have a firm belief that when we succeed as a team. And if we don't succeed, we don't succeed, as a team. And our success is not contingent on any one individual, including me as the CEO. It's a team effort. So that people and culture, I place as a center focus. The next P is planning, and planning is all about strategy. And in my view, strategy is about focus. And I define focus maybe a bit different than most people. I think most people would define focus as deciding what you're going to spend time and resources doing. My definition of focus is actually the opposite of that. It's deciding what things are you going to stop doing. It's much more difficult to take things off the list than to add things to the list as it relates to focus. So the way I think about it is once you stop doing those things that don't bring the most value, you free up time and resources to really double down on those factors that bring value to your members, to your customers, and internal and external stakeholders to achieve your overall mission. And that's actually something that I learned from my grandfather. I'm often asked growing up, who was your greatest influence? Right. And for me, aside from my mom, I was raised by a single mom. It would be my grandfather, right. Percy J. Hayes. He was a World War II veteran, won 5 Bronze Stars for bravery in World War II. Fought at Normandy and was at the liberation of a number of the concentration camps. And he lived to be 97 years old. And he was actually a scoutmaster in the Boy Scouts for 30 years. So that's what inspired me to become an Eagle Scout. But my grandfather taught me something that he learned in the Army during the war, and that's to have specific goals, or a specific plan. And as importantly, to have a specific, not only having specific goals, but having a specific plan to, achieve those goals. And that's a lesson that has served me well, throughout my 30+ year, career journey. So planning, again, about strategy, and it's about focus. The next P is processes. In order to be successful, and I impress upon my teams the need to have management processes, end-to-end management processes with comprehensive reporting to know whether or not we're hitting the mark on our objectives. And so it sort of drives that repeatable, consistent performance. So that's really what processes are all about. And then the fourth P is performance. We make commitments to our internal and external stakeholders. We're a mission-driven organization, and we make commitments to the community and other external stakeholders, and we have to deliver on those commitments. Full stop. That's what performance is all about. And then partnerships. If I had to choose one word to describe my leadership style, it would be collaborative. It would be participative. So partnerships is an important component of my leadership philosophy, and not just partnerships internally, because I believe in partnerships happen within an organization, but also externally, and having collaboration with and partnerships with external partners. No one organization can solve all the challenge or achieve all of their objectives alone. It takes a partnership. So that's my leadership philosophy. That's sort of my leadership style, and it served me well over the years.
That leadership philosophy come from Colin Powell?
Well, Colin Powell is one who is a leader that I've admired greatly. What he stood for, and of course, with his passing not long ago, I've reflected even more on some of the lessons that I learned, from Colin Powell. And one of the things that Colin Powell would always say, and I like to think that I, am this way as a leader. He says that he said, optimism is a force multiplier. Right? Perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. And that's a lesson that I've taken with me, and certainly the challenges of the last few years with the pandemic and the economic challenges and others have really put that to the test. Remaining optimistic because it is a force multiplier. But yes, Colin Powell definitely is had a strong influence on my leadership view.
I get the sense that you get a lot of energy from being around others. Yet you began this job with an office that was all empty. I mean, your employees pretty much were working from home. How did that affect your style and in your leadership?
Well, I tell you, Jim, this is such an important point, because I get energy, from people, and I'm sure there's got to be a case study that's going to happen at some point on my experience of becoming the CEO of a major corporation that actually combined or merged in the middle of the pandemic with everything being virtual. So certainly we've become accustomed to interacting the way you and I are interacting right now, which I think 3 years ago, this just wasn't as second nature as it is now, but really leveraging technology. And so, as I think about it, my entire onboarding to the organization was virtual. I started in July, and that was even before the Delta variant, right? And it was just maybe several months after the vaccines were available. So I really just had to adjust my style and get that same energy from, interactions like this. We did have a milestone on March the 21st when we brought all of our colleagues, we opened up our offices, I should say, in Canton. We have a new office in Canton, as well as all of our other regional offices. We operate in 5 states in New England, including, of course, Massachusetts. And so I got to tell you, our offices weren't even available to come into because the previous offices for the 2 organizations weren't large enough to hold the combined organization. So we opened a new office, which opened in September. So you're right. I was I couldn't wait to get in the office. We relocated in September, and I started coming to the office. I think I was the only one here, me and a few security guards, for a while. And then the leadership team started coming in, and then after March 21st, we have more folks coming in. So it's an exciting time, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to interact in person, with many of our colleagues here at Point32 Health.
Well, you've been with Point32 Health for about 10 months. So tell me how it's going. Here's a chance for you to, expand on all the good news that has been driven by your team there at Point32.
It's going extremely well. I'm coming up, believe it or not, on a year as CEO. It's 10 months to be exact. As you mentioned, July 5th will be 2 years. And as I, back in July last year, thought about what I had, certainly believed we could accomplish as an organization, milestones that we have as an organization, I feel great about what we've accomplished over the last year. We have a number of different initiatives across integration. We are hitting the mark on all of our milestones relative to integration. We needed to develop a strategy. As you can imagine, as a new organization with a new CEO that's forming a new leadership team, we had to define the strategic vision for Point32 Health. We had the good fortune of having two, as I said before, strong, iconic organizations that had their own strategies, but now we're a combined organization. So I spent a lot of time developing our strategic plan, for the next 5 years, and feel great about that. As I mentioned, the culture work. When you're bringing together organizations like Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan, creating that unified, distinctive, unique culture for Point32 Health has been important. And then all the operational, factors, making sure that we land the planes and every day is important. So I feel great about that. So so far so good.
So what would be your top priorities going forward?
Yeah, the way we think about it is I'll start with what I said before, is the culture, because it's great that we have our strategy, but my favorite Peter Drucker quote is that strategy is important, but culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so we're focused on building this unified culture, and we have a very deliberate process and proactive process that and intentional is the word I'll use to develop this culture based on collaboration, as I talked about before, inclusion, accountability, authenticity, and transparency. And so that culture work is very important. Next is the integration. We're bringing together these two organizations. As I joke with my team, when you're bringing together, two companies, you have two of everything, right? And so we have a multi-year, multi-phase integration plan in order to, drive the efficiencies and create value for our customers, our members, in the community. So that's a big focus. Third would be, that operational excellence. I'm a big believer that, we have to continuously drive improvements, in our processes. We've developed a KPI, or key performance indicator, dashboard, and ensuring that we're hitting the mark there. And, if you think about our name, Point32 Health, it's inspired by the 32 points on a compass. Right. And so we see our role is to guide and empower people to healthier lives. And so in order to do that, we have to make it easier for people to navigate this complex health system. And so from an operational standpoint, we're ensuring that we're, hitting the mark there. Next would be, financial strength. We're a not-for-profit organization, and we're proud of that. And so we can make investments in the short term and the long term to benefit our members and the community. But while we're not for profit, we're also not for losses, right? So we have to make sure that we're strong financially. And then the fifth, and you could argue that one of the most important priorities, because it gets at the core of our mission, and that's to enhance the health of the community health. And there's a number of things that we're doing there to support this priority, with one of the key focuses being on health equity. It's a passion of mine, as I talked about the reasons why I got into the healthcare industry to begin with, is to help bring together this holistic whole notion of whole person health, and health equity is core to that. We have over 70 different initiatives at Point32 Health to support health equity, 70 different initiatives. And we recently formed the Point32 Health Equity, Corporate Health Equity Program to kind of tie together all this work that we're doing to really drive broader impact and better outcomes. I could talk for the next 3 hours about all the things we're doing around health equity, but we got to focus on maternal health, and certainly addressing the social determinants of health. I think most people know, because we talk a lot about health care, and health care is important, but health care actually only represents 20% of our health outcomes. The other 80% are non-clinical factors. Genetics are a part of that, but the preponderance of that are these social determinants of health, which include access to healthy food, access to quality housing, access to transportation, access to jobs and economic empowerment. That's that financial health piece that I often talk about. If there's language barriers, ensuring that those are addressed. So we invest significant time and resources in addressing those social determinants of health through the work of our foundation and our corporate giving, as well as other activities like the mobile vaccine units that we rolled out last year to go into some of the hardest hit communities in Massachusetts and really across New England, to help people get education on vaccines. Get over 20,000 people get education on vaccines, and over 4,000 people we help them get vaccinated. I mean, so those are the kind of things that we're doing to support our view around health equity. And Jim, I think it's important to note that, as I said before, we're in 5 states: Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and Maine. So we're proud of the fact that we're the largest not-for-profit health plan in New England.
Point32 Health is a brand new organization. So where do you see Point32 in a few years here in New England?
Well, I'd like to think that in a number of years we'll be the undisputed leader in helping people get the health that they need to live their healthiest lives. I like to think about us, as I mentioned, we're the largest not-for-profit health plan in New England, is that we're viewed as the New England health plan, much like the New England Patriots are viewed as the New England football team. Pains me to say that as a Steeler fan, but
yeah.
No, you have to respect them with the Patriots. But so that's the vision, is that we're the undisputed leader in helping people get access to quality, affordable health care in an experience that's easy to navigate.
Just touching on the challenge that you had taking 2 very large and well-established organizations and kind of, integrating the two. Was there anything that you learned from that experience?
Yeah, I one of the things that I did very early on and continue to do, because I recognize that when you're coming into a region of the country where you need to learn, the dynamics, as it relates to the healthcare landscape. I invested. I learned the importance of investing significant time building relationships. It's always something that's been, as I talked about my leadership philosophy and people, something that I've believed in partnerships. But I realized that I really needed to double down on that coming into this role. And so within my first 100 days, I met with over 400 different colleagues internally and had over 200 meetings with external stakeholders. You and I had a chance to spend some time together during my first 100 days. So and that has really helped me and the organization, kind of build the momentum we need to continue to deliver on our mission. So what I learned is that, that the importance of that interpersonal connection and that communication. And I was fortunate. There was a window from July up until about October where I could actually have some in-person meetings, like we had. I had an opportunity to meet with several governors, including Governor Baker, who knows a little bit about this organization, right? He had served as the CEO of Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, and he gave me some great advice and provided some really key insights into the organization, including the focus on culture. Had an opportunity to meet with AG Healy, and learn about her passion around behavioral health and solving some of those. So the list goes on and on. But it's really we talk about the importance of relationships, but when you're navigating in an environment like this, being open-minded and willing to learn. I went on what I called a listening tour during my first 100 days. And it met with all the folks that I talked about, and I call it a listening tour and not a hearing tour, right? Because people can often hear things, but they're not listening, so they don't absorb it. So it truly was a listening tour, and it has helped me gain perspectives that I think are really be beneficial to me personally and professionally, but then also for Point32 Health as an organization.
How long do you anticipate Point32 Health in using the Harvard Pilgrim and the Tufts Health Plan brand in the market?
Yeah, while we're proud of our new parent company name, Point32 Health, as I said, it really is a great symbol. The compass is our symbol in helping people navigate. I'm an old, Boy Scout, like I said, and the compass really resonates for me because as a Boy Scout, there were 4 things you better have in your backpack. One was a flashlight. Second was a pocket knife. Third was a canteen, preferably with some water in it. And then finally was a compass, because without the compass, you didn't know where you were going. So we're proud of our name, our parent company name. Now, having said that, we are not moving away from these strong, iconic brands that we've enjoyed over the last 90 years combined. Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare was founded in 1969, over 50 years ago. Tufts Health Plan was founded in 1979, over 40 years ago, and just a strong legacy of commitment to the community and bringing healthcare solutions to people in New England. So we're not moving away from those brands. You'll continue to see those brands in the markets in which we operate in the 5 states that I mentioned previously.
Part of that integration involved moving from 2 previous locations, Wellesley, Watertown, to your new headquarters here in Canton. Talk about your campus there and how proud you are of the facility there.
Yeah, I tell you, we are super proud of our new campus here in Canton. And as you mentioned, we had offices in Watertown and Wellesley. And we, through a property swap, we were fortunate, we're able to acquire this property in Canton, which was the old Reebok headquarters. I think you mentioned that before. And as I understand it, it had been sitting empty for about 4 years. So we were able to, transition into the property, give it a bit of a refresh. It's a 40-acre campus. It's the first time I've ever worked in, and I've been fortunate to work for some great companies in different parts of the country, but have never worked at a corporate headquarters like this, where we have a 400-meter Olympic track, that goes around the, perimeter of the campus. Tons of greenery, 2 basketball courts, including an indoor basketball court. I think you saw it when you came, and it's got the parquet floors and so forth. And so that was obviously, Reebok gets credit for putting those. We have a baseball diamond, and as I mentioned, I played baseball in college, so I can't wait to get the colleagues out on that baseball diamond and see who can hit my fastball.
Yeah.
I've encouraged folks to wear a helmet because I don't have the same control that I had in college. But we really do. We're proud of our campus, and it's one that we see as an asset, for the community. And one of the benefits we had of this combining during the pandemic is that we could build out the workspaces for the workplace of the future. So we have a ton of innovation spaces and collaboration spaces, and really areas where folks can come together in this environment that, as we know, is completely different than prior to March of 2020. The workforce and the expectations around work have changed. We're in a hybrid environment now. We went from 30% of our colleagues who worked fully remote prior to the pandemic to close to 50% now, that are fully remote. And we have just over 4,000 colleagues, we call them, or employees, others might call, most of which are here in Massachusetts, but we have folks in our regional offices in New Hampshire, Maine, Connecticut, as I mentioned before. But proud of the campus, and it's one that we view as certainly a great asset for the organization.
Great. I don't think we can have any further discussion without touching on a few critically important issues, including that you mentioned it earlier, the health equity, the diversity and inclusion and behavioral health, obviously a passion that comes through very clearly in our discussion today. So I thought we'd round out our conversation today talking about these topics. Obviously, you've been an outspoken voice on the need to address inequities in our healthcare system and ensure access to high quality care for all patients. Earlier this week, you were part of a group of local healthcare leaders who launched the Health Equity Compact. I and all of our listeners would love to hear more about that initiative and Point32 Health's role in it.
Well, let me just say, just taking a step back, and this is a very important topic, and as you mentioned, near and dear to me, this notion of equity. And we learned over the last 2 years, the events of the last 2 years, the connection between health equity, racial equity, and economic equality, economic equity, and even gender equity. Over the last, and what came to the forefront is how these are all inextricably linked. And as CEO of Point32 Health, it's important to me that our organization leads by example with actions and results, and not just words. I believe that health equity needs to be, and equity broadly, as I mentioned, needs to be at the core of everything that an organization does. I talked about some of what we're doing around health equity. I talked about that before. We also have a significant focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion within our organization. Because again, as I said, it's important that we lead by example. I'm a firm believer that organizations truly demonstrate their commitment to DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion, 3 ways, and you have to do all 3. It's with the head, with the heart, and with the wallet, right? And so with the head means that intellectually, that supporting equality, the diversity, equity, and inclusion is the right thing to do. With the heart means that you feel that it's the right thing to do. It's just something that you believe is the right thing to do because it's you believe in fairness. Now, unfortunately, most organizations, or I should say many organizations, sort of stop there and don't get to this third component, and that's with the wallet. And that's actually making investments in DE&I, attracting diverse talent, to the organization, building programs within the organization to set that talent up for success, making investments, and you mentioned the Health Equity Compact,
right,
which we're extremely proud to be a part of, because it's leaders. I'll call it it's a compact of leaders with lived experiences that are looking to solve for those systemic, issues, those systemic inequality issues that exist in our society, and addressing it through, again, actions, policies, programs, and certainly using the all the tools that we have available to help solve for that. Again, policy and programs. And so and we're proud to say that over 50% of our board of directors are women and people of color, and 62% of my executive leadership team, or in other words, the C-suite at Point32 Health, are women and people of color. Now, having said that, while we're proud of what the results we have, got a lot more work to do, and we've developed programs to drive diversity across multiple dimensions throughout our entire organization. So again, it's an area I could talk a lot more about, but it's certainly a passion, and I think that we're making strides and moving in the right direction.
You know, I read a statistic a while ago that just jumped out at me, and it just said life expectancy in the wealthy, predominantly white Back Bay neighborhood here in Boston was 92 years old. Just 3 miles away, predominantly Black Roxbury, life expectancy lifespan was just 59. Those disparities and racial disparities, they've only worsened. And then we had COVID. So your initiative on this health equity compact, boy, is that needed now more than ever. So congratulations. But more importantly, what are the biggest challenges that you're going to be facing here in health equity?
You know, health equity is such a complex issue because you have all of these challenges which are broad, you know, and I talked about those. You and I have talked about those this morning. Food, housing, transportation, economic empowerment, you know, certainly access. And now I mentioned that, you know, healthcare only represents, you know, 20% of one's overall health outcome. But when you need that care, you know, it's very important. I mean, it practically, as a practical matter, becomes 100%. And so helping people get access to that quality health care, you know, is a challenge, and then addressing the health. So the way we think about it, everything we do at Point32 Health and are encouraging others, other stakeholders, is to, back to what I said on partnerships. The biggest challenge is how do we come together, and this is why I love the work of the Health Equity Compact, and you know, Michael Curry, you know, leading the initiative, and all the other leaders that are all in on this effort is so important, because you know, every organization has some initiatives. Like I talked about, we have 70 different initiatives at Point32 Health, and all the major organizations have some initiative. But bringing them together so that we can focus on, instead of trying to boil the ocean, which is a challenge because there's a lot to get done, how do we focus initiatives on, again, policies and programs that can really move the needle as it relates to health equity? And so I think the biggest challenge is, you know, in the past, because these challenges were so broad, folks would just say, well, you know, there's not much we can do about it because we can't, you know, solve, you know, world hunger, you know, world peace. But I think what we do is we come together and bring our resources together and focus back to when I talked about focus, is deciding not only what you're going to do, but what you're not going to do, and then investing resources in it. So, you know, I'm optimistic. We talked about Colin Powell. You know, I'm optimistic by nature that you know, we're moving in the right direction. A lot of work to do, though.
Right. Yeah. How does that diverse leadership team that you should be very proud of, how does that impact the way you deliver care and services to your members?
Yeah, it's so important that when we're delivering care and working with health systems that are delivering the care more directly, that we understand the cultural dynamics that exist in bringing care. And the benefit, back to when I talked about head, heart, and wallet, in terms of supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion, is that when you have diversity across multiple spectrums, you're able to think about solutions that are specific to the communities that you serve, right? Because you have multiple points of view, multiple lived experiences, which are important. So I guess I would sum it up in saying that having a diverse leadership team allows us to think about bringing forth solutions through lived experiences to address, you know, the diverse populations that we serve. At Point32 Health, and this is core to our mission, we're proud of the fact that we are the only health plan in Massachusetts that serves every segment of the population, every segment of the market. We serve the Medicaid market. We have over 300,000 members in Mass Health. We serve Medicare, over 100,000 members in Medicare Advantage. All of the segments within the commercial segment. We're on the exchange, one of the leaders in the connector program, because we have a belief that we need to be there to help people no matter where they are on their healthcare journey. And so in order to do that, you need to participate in every segment of the market. There's no other health plan in Massachusetts that can say that. Now, in other markets where we operate, we also offer multiple products as well. And so as we think about the mission of the organization and bringing forth solutions, we're able to impact those over 2 million members, 2.2 million members that you mentioned throughout the region.
Mm-hmm. I know your time is limited. I have one last question here, particularly over these last few challenging years. There's been a long overdue and much needed focus on behavioral health. Can you just tell us about your plans to address behavioral health to make it more accessible and easier for your members?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, we are focused on whole person health, which means the connection between physical health, behavioral health, and the social economic health that I talked about in terms of social determinants. So we've made a decision to insource behavioral health and build those capabilities out, broaden them, internally because of that inextricable link between behavioral health and physical health. And so having an integrated platform that brings solutions to our members and the community more broadly is something that we're focused on, and we'll be launching that in 2023. So it's a significant area of focus for us. Certainly, again, the events of the last 2 years have brought to the forefront some of the challenges around behavioral health and mental health that we absolutely have to get at. Part of it is access. We have a goal as we're building out our behavioral health capabilities to have over 3,000 behavioral health providers, in our network. It's an ambitious goal, but we recognize that in order to bring forth solutions, we have to have the clinical expertise and the folks to help. And one of the benefits of certainly the pandemic is that telehealth and virtual care has become more the norm than the outlier. And so specifically in this area of behavioral health, we believe that there's an opportunity here. 40 to 50% of our behavioral health visits today are virtual. And we see that as a trend that'll likely continue.
Mm-hmm. Well, this has been a great opportunity for all of the members of the New England Council to get to know you and your style, your leadership, your passion, as well as to hear all of the good things that Point32 Health is doing and continues to do here in New England. And we're very fortunate to have you as a member of the New England Council, and we wish you much success in the future and look forward to seeing you in person at many of our upcoming New England Council events. But again, this has been a wonderful opportunity for all of us to hear more good news from Point32 Health.
Well, thanks so much, Jim, and congratulations on the great work you're doing at the New England Council. I was thrilled to be here. This has been a blast. I really enjoyed the conversation and am honored to be a part of it. And like you said, looking forward to seeing you
Exactly.
down the road.
Yeah, exactly. And go Celtics. Unfortunately, we got another casualty tonight. Derek White is unable to play.
Oh,
So that's three out tonight, but got to be optimistic.
that's right. Optimistic. We'll find a way.
You got it. All right. Thank you, Cain.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right.